In the last video, we created the application and configured the database. So now I want to create the migration scripts for Flyway. So the first thing we have to do is create a directory where we're going to put those scripts. So I'm going to create two directories. New directory. This one is called DB. And then underneath that directory, we're going to create another one called migration. Okay, and it's a requirement that these Flyway scripts go in this migration directory. Don't let this fool you in IntelliJ. It combines these two when there's nothing directly in the DB directory other than just another directory. It displays it like that, so don't let that throw you off. So I'm going to use the Flyway plugin that I showed you for IntelliJ in class that allows you to create migration files like this. So I'm going to say Flyway migration, versioned migration, and here I'm just going to say add initial tables. Okay. And let's see what it did. Well, it created this file here. And remember, typically you start with a V for version, and then you have a number here, and then you have two underscores followed by the name of the thing, .sql. So the main thing that's important in doing these migrations is that you have these double underscores, and that whatever this thing is here is a number, so that if I create another one, then it will sort correctly. So if you do it manually, a lot of times I just use V1 and V2 and V3. But when Flyway runs these things, it does it based on this naming thing right here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I can create both my tables in one file. So I'm just going to copy in the tables from off screen. And right here, there's nothing special about these things. These are just standard SQL statements for Postgres that are going to create these various tables, right? So I showed you in class that one of the things that you could do at this point, since you have Flyway configured, is you could go ahead and run Flyway and generate, generate the tables. But I'm going to show you a different way to do it this time, and let the application actually do it. So let's go back to our list of to-do things. We've got this done now, so we can mark that as done. So create a package to hold all source. All right, that's pretty quick. So we'll go back here, and under Java, we're going to create a new package. So we can just call this main. You call it whatever you want it to, really. And then, so that's actually all we need to do there. So let's go back. Let's see. Mark that done. Okay, now we need to create the main class inside the package and add it this SpringBoot application and implement the command line runner. Okay, so three things to do here. All right, so going back to the code, right here we're going to create a new class, and we'll just call it main. Okay, and it doesn't have much in it right now, right? So we need to do a couple things here. We're going to annotate it first. So we have to say SpringBoot application. That's the first part. And you notice it does the import as soon as you do that annotation. And then this thing needs to implement the command line runner interface. And you'll notice it turns red immediately. That's because we need to implement the methods. And there's really only one method that we have to implement, which is the run method. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we need to do here is, let's see, we need a main, right? So public static void main. And right here, all we really want to do at this point is just run the command line runner. So we're going to say spring application dot run, and then here we give it the class, like that. Okay. Now, if we've done everything correctly here, it should actually run. It won't do anything, but let's see if it works. So I'm going to come over here and say run. And let's see if we run into any problems when we get down here. Okay, so it didn't like something. What did it not like? Okay. Well, that's a fundamental problem, isn't it? So connection to host refused. This just means the database is not running. So in the pause of the video before I started this one, my computer was nice enough to crash on me. So Postgres is not running. So now I got it running. And let's try again. Okay, and it worked. Gave us these nice little colors down here, and everything, we don't see an error anywhere. In there, though, what we should see is that when we refresh the databases over here, we should now have tables. And this happens, again, because when you run the application, it runs Flyway automatically. That's part of what the Spring framework does. So that saves us a good bit of work. We don't even have to run Flyway manually. Okay, so let's see what else we need to do here. All right, so we've done that, and it worked. We did this, and it worked. Now we need to add the persistence facet to the project, and then use that to create the tables. Okay, so let's, or the classes rather, from the tables in the database. So let's do that. Okay, so we come up to here, to the project name, say add framework support, and then we need to scroll down and see if we can find what we're looking for here. So we want Java EE persistence, that's one thing we want, oops, and we also want SQL support. Okay, all these other things, this, for example, TimeLeaf, this is a language that you can use if you're building, for building web applications with Java. But we're not going to do that right now. So I'm going to say OK. And then now I want to open the persistence window. Okay, if you try to open this and you don't get anything, it doesn't even show the word persistence, that means that you forgot to add the framework up there. So now I'm going to take this thing and say I want to assign a data source. And right here, I can assign the data sources. Sometimes it gives me one, sometimes it gives me two up here, but assign it to both if you need to. And then we've done that. And now the next step is, let's see, well, what? Let's go back and see what our thing says to do. We did that. And then use it to create classes from the tables. Okay? So that's what we're going to do next. So this is actually kind of neat. What we're going to do is from here, we're going to say generate persistence mapping by database schema. It relies on you having a database over here configured. And then now we're going to say we want these two tables. This one is one that is a table that Flyway uses internally. So we don't want to mess with it. So let's do this and leave the defaults down here. We'll say OK. Oh, forgot to give it a package. So let's see. It looks like it doesn't want to let me find the package that we're using. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now we're good. Say OK. Say yes. And let it go. And now under our main package, we have our address and our customer classes. Okay. So let's mark that one done. And now we create repository classes for each. Okay. So let's go back and do that. So repository classes are a thing in Spring that take the place of, or essentially are automatic data access objects, they're called. And they are required. So it's pretty easy to do. Actually, all we do is we create an interface. So we're going to say here. And then the name needs to be the class name, followed by the word repository. And this is going to be an interface. Okay. And then here we need to say that it extends CRUD repository. Now you can see there's other things that it could extend there. I mean, there's a lot of other things we could do there. And here we need to tell it that this is the address class and that we're using integers as the primary key. Okay. Now technically, this is all we need to do. We put our custom methods that we want to use at some point in there. All right, so we've got that one done. Let's come to here. Well, actually, we'll go here, new, and again, we'll say customer repository. Make this an interface. And then here we'll say extends CRUD repository like that. And then this is the customer class. And again, we use an integer. Okay. So that step's done. So we've done this part. Okay. So I'm going to stop the video here and pick up in the next video. We're going to modify the classes to implement the relationships and then write some code to actually use what we've done so far.